Marcus Thorne stood at the edge of his wheat field, watching the golden stalks sway in the evening breeze. 3 years had passed since Gina's death, and the farm still felt too quiet, too empty. The setting suns of Verdania painted the sky in shades of purple and amber, a daily reminder of why he'd chosen this remote agricultural world to start over. The tranquility shattered with a sonic boom that sent birds scattering from the nearby trees. Marcus looked up to see a sleek, obsidian craft trailing smoke and fire across the darkening sky. It carved a burning arc through the atmosphere before crashing into his northern field. With an earth-shaking impact, for a moment, Marcus stood frozen. Then instinct kicked in. He grabbed the emergency kit from his barn and sprinted toward the crash site. Wheat stalks whipping against his legs, the ship had carved a deep furrow through his field. Its hull still glowing with heat, strange symbols adorned its surface, unlike any human or Trade Federation markings he knew. Through a gaping tear in the hull, he glimpsed movement. Someone was alive in there. Marcus approached cautiously, calling out, "Hello, can you hear me? I'm here to help." A figure emerged from the wreckage, tall, powerful, and undeniably female despite the form-fitting armor that covered her body. Her skin had an ethereal violet hue, and her hair, white as fresh snow, was matted with dark blood. She stumbled, and Marcus rushed forward to catch her. The moment he touched her, she reacted with lightning speed. Despite her injuries, she had him pinned against the ship's hull, a curved blade pressed to his throat. Her eyes, a striking silver that seemed to hold galaxies within them, blazed with warrior's fury. "Please," Marcus said softly, raising his hands, "I'm trying to help you." She studied him for a long moment, then spoke in a language he didn't understand. Her words were melodic yet sharp, like bells made of steel. The blade trembled in her grip, and he realized she was more badly hurt. Then she let on. "You're bleeding," he said, nodding toward the dark stain spreading across her side. "Let me help." Whether she understood his words or simply recognized his intent, she slowly lowered the blade. Then her legs gave out, and Marcus caught her again, this time cradling her carefully. She was surprisingly light despite her height, though he could feel the density of muscle beneath the armor. He carried her to his home, a modest farmhouse that had seen better days. Inside, he laid her on his bed and began the delicate process of removing her armor. She drifted in and out of consciousness, occasionally muttering in her musical language. The armor came away in sections, revealing more of that violet skin marked with intricate scarification patterns that seemed both ceremonial and beautiful. Beneath the armor, she wore a simple undersuit that allowed him to properly examine her wounds. 3 deep gashes ran along her ribs, and various burns and bruises covered her body. Marcus worked through the night, cleaning and dressing her wounds with the limited medical supplies he had. She woke several times, those silver eyes tracking his movements with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. When he offered her water, she drank gratefully, her fingers briefly touching his as she took the cup. By dawn, her condition had stabilized. Marcus sat in a chair beside the bed, exhausted, but unable to look away from this mysterious warrior who had literally fallen from the sky. In sleep, her features softened, revealing a beauty that was both alien and mesmerizing. She woke as the morning light filtered through the windows, immediately tensing until she recognized him. Marcus offered what he hoped was a reassuring smile. "Good morning," he said. "How are you feeling?" She attempted to sit up, winced, and he gently pressed her back down. "Rest," he said. "You're safe here." She spoke again in her language, frustration evident when he shook his head in confusion. Then, to his surprise, she pointed to herself and said carefully, "Kitra, Kitra." He repeated, and she nodded. He pointed to himself, "Marcus." "Marcus," she said, the syllables foreign on her tongue. Then she gestured around the room with a questioning look. "My home," he said. "Farm, safe." She seemed to understand, relaxing slightly. Over the next few hours, they developed a simple communication through gestures and single words. Marcus brought her soup, which she examined suspiciously before hunger won out. When she tried the bread, her eyes widened in surprise, and she actually smiled, a sight that made Marcus's heart skip unexpectedly. As the day wore on, He found himself drawn to her presence. Despite her injuries and the language barrier, she radiated a fierce vitality. When he changed her bandages, she watched him with those extraordinary eyes, and he felt a connection he hadn't experienced since Gina. That evening, as he prepared dinner, he heard movement and turned to find her standing in the doorway. Wrapped in one of his sheets, she shouldn't have been able to walk yet, but there she stood, proud and determined. "You should be resting," he said, moving to support her. She allowed him to guide her to a chair, but shook her head when he tried to make her return to bed. Instead, she watched him cook, occasionally pointing at items and learning their names. When he served the simple meal, she ate with surprising delicacy for someone he'd seen wield a blade. With such deadly precision. As night fell again, Marcus found himself wondering who this remarkable woman was, and what had brought her crashing into his quiet life. Whatever the answer, he knew his world had irrevocably changed the moment she fell from the stars. 2 weeks passed in a rhythm Marcus hadn't expected. Each morning, he would find Kitra already awake, standing by the window watching the sunrise over the wheat fields. Her recovery was remarkable. Wounds that should have taken months to heal were already closing into faint scars. "Good morning," Marcus said, entering the kitchen to find her examining his coffee maker with intense curiosity. "Good morning, Marcus," she replied, her pronunciation improving daily. She had taken to wearing his clothes, loose flannel shirts and worn jeans that somehow looked elegant on her tall frame. He showed her how to brew coffee, amused by her reaction to the first sip. She wrinkled her nose, then tried again, as if conquering a challenge. That was Kitra. Everything was either a lesson to learn or a battle to win. They had developed a routine. Mornings were for language lessons, conducted over breakfast. Marcus would point to objects, speak slowly, and she would repeat with fierce concentration. She learned at an astounding rate, constructing simple sentences within days. "Why do you grow the golden plants?" she asked one morning, gesturing toward the fields. "Wheat," he corrected gently. "We make bread from it." "Food," she nodded, filing the information away. "On my world, we have crystal grains. They sing when the wind blows." It was the first real detail she'd shared about her home, and Marcus treasured it. In exchange, he told her about Earth, about how humanity had spread across the stars, about how he'd chosen this quiet world to heal after loss. Afternoons were spent on the farm. Kitra insisted on helping despite his protests about her injuries. She approached farm work like military training, studying each task with intense focus. When he taught her to milk the dairy cows, she was startled when the gentle creature mooed at her. "It speaks," she exclaimed, jumping back with her hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Marcus laughed, a sound that had become more frequent since her arrival. "She's just saying hello. Here, she likes to be scratched behind the ears." Watching the fierce warrior tentatively pet a cow was a sight he wouldn't forget. When the animal leaned into her touch, Kitra's face lit up with childlike wonder. But it wasn't all peaceful moments. Sometimes, when she thought he wasn't looking, Marcus caught her practicing complex combat movements in the barn. Her body flowed like water, each motion precise and deadly. Once, she noticed him watching and froze. "I must stay strong," she said simply. "Teach me." Marcus found himself saying. She tilted her head, considering. "You are not a warrior." "No, but I'd like to understand." That evening, she showed him basic defensive stances. Her hands corrected his posture, and Marcus was acutely aware of every touch. When she demonstrated a block, her body moved against his, and they both froze. The air between them crackled with tension. "Like this," she whispered, but neither of them moved. Marcus turned to face her, their bodies inches apart. "Kitra," she stepped back, something like fear flickering in her silver eyes. "I should check the perimeter," she said, reverting to what he'd come to recognize as her soldier's instincts. He let her go, but the moment lingered. As the days passed, their connection deepened despite the barriers between them. She told him fragments of her past, a life of discipline and duty, battles fought in distant systems, a weight of expectation she didn't fully explain. He shared his own story, meeting Gina in college, building a life together. Her death in a shuttle accident, the hollow years that followed. You loved her very much. Kitra observed one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the stars. I did, Marcus admitted. I thought I'd never feel anything again. And now, he looked at her, silhouetted against the night sky. Now I'm not so sure. She was quiet for a long moment. My people do not speak easily of feelings. We are taught that emotion is weakness. What do you think? She turned to him, and in the starlight, her violet skin seemed to glow. I think perhaps we are wrong about many things. The spell was broken 3 days later. Marcus had gone to town for supplies, leaving Kitra at the farm despite her protests. When he returned, he found her tense and alert. Someone was here, she said. A ship passed overhead, low, scanning. Maybe just a transport. No, her voice was sharp. I know Imperial scout patterns. They are searching. Imperial. Kitra, who are you? She looked away. Someone who should not have survived. Someone. They will not stop hunting. That night, she was restless. Marcus woke to find her standing guard at the window, her recovered blade in hand. When he approached, she didn't turn. You should send me away, she said. I bring danger. I'm not sending you anywhere, Marcus said firmly. Whatever this is, we'll face it together. She turned then, her eyes bright with an emotion he couldn't name. You do not understand. Then help me understand. Instead of answering, she crossed the space between them and pressed her forehead to his, a gesture that felt deeply intimate. You are a good man, Marcus Thorne. Better than I deserve. He cupped her face gently. Let me be the judge of that. In the distance, thunder rolled across the clear night sky. But Marcus knew it wasn't a storm approaching. It was the sound of engines getting closer. Their time in hiding was running out. The nightmares started 3 days after the scout ship's passing. Marcus woke to the sound of Kitra crying out in her sleep, her body thrashing against invisible enemies. When he reached for her, she nearly broke his wrist before her eyes snapped, open, wild and unfocused. Kitra, it's me, he said softly, not moving despite the pain in his arm. You're safe, you're at the farm. Recognition flooded her features, followed quickly by horror. She released him immediately, her hands trembling. Forgive me. I could have, but you didn't, Marcus interrupted, gently examining his wrist. It would bruise, nothing more. Wanna talk about it? She shook her head, then seemed to change her mind. The Battle of Thymerus Station. My unit we were betrayed. Someone gave away our position. Her voice dropped to a whisper. 300 warriors. I was the only survivor. Marcus settled beside her on the bed, careful not to crowd her. How? Because I was better than them, faster, more ruthless. She looked at her hands as if they belonged to someone else. I carved through our attackers like they were training dummies, but I couldn't save my unit. My friends, survivor's guilt, Marcus said quietly. I know something about that. She looked at him sharply. Your wife's death was an accident. This was betrayal. Someone wanted us dead. Someone close enough to know our mission. Is that why you're running? Kitra was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. I'm not running. I'm hunting. But the trail led me into a trap. My ship was sabotaged. The next morning, she was different. The nightmares had cracked something open in her, made her more determined, but also more vulnerable. After breakfast, she led him to the barn. If they find me here, you need to be able to defend yourself, she announced, producing a second blade from somewhere in the salvaged pieces of her armor. Kitra, I'm a farmer. Not you are someone I care about, she interrupted, then seemed surprised by her own words. That makes you a target. Please. He couldn't refuse her then. She taught him the basics, how to hold the curved blade, how to move his feet, how to block and parry. Her teaching style was patient, but exacting. When he made mistakes, she corrected him with gentle touches that lingered longer than necessary. You learn quickly, she said after a week of daily sessions. Your body remembers how to fight, even if your mind has forgotten. I was in the Colonial Defense Force years ago, Marcus admitted. Before Gina, before I decided I'd rather grow things than destroy them. She smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Yet here you are, learning to fight again. For me, for us, he corrected. That evening, Verdania's twin moons rose full and bright, bathing the farm in silver light. They walked the perimeter. Together, a habit that had formed naturally. Kitra pointed out defensive positions, lines of sight, escape routes. Marcus pointed out the beauty, the way moonlight turned the wheat to silver, the night-blooming flowers that grew wild along the fence line. On my world, Kitra said suddenly, we have 3 moons. They dance together in the sky, never quite touching. Legend says they were lovers once, cursed to chase each other for eternity. That's sad. Marcus observed. I used to think so. Now, she trailed off, stopping beside the old oak tree that marked the property's eastern border. Now, I think perhaps the chase itself is beautiful, to always have something to reach for. Marcus stepped closer. In the moonlight, her skin seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. What are you reaching for? Kitra, she turned to face him fully, and he saw the war in her eyes, duty against desire, training against instinct, something I should not want, something that makes me weak when I need to be strong. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Marcus said honestly. No, she whispered. Strong would be leaving. Strong would be facing my enemies alone. This, she gestured between them, this is selfishness. Then be selfish, Marcus said, closing the distance between them. Be selfish with me. For a heartbeat, she stood frozen. Then she surged forward, her lips meeting his with a desperation that spoke of all the words they couldn't say. The kiss was fierce and tender at once, warrior and woman colliding in the moonlight. Marcus pulled her closer, marveling at how someone so deadly could feel so right in his arms. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kitra rested her forehead against his shoulder. You make me forget who I am supposed to be, she murmured. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Marcus suggested, stroking her silver hair. She lifted her head to respond, but her entire body suddenly went rigid. In one fluid motion, she spun him behind the oak tree, her blade appearing in her hand. What ships? She hissed. Multiple, coming from the east. Marcus heard them then, the low hum of engines running in stealth mode. Through the trees, lights began to appear, surrounding the farm in a closing net. How many? He asked, his own hand going to the blade she'd given him. Too many, Kitra said grimly. She turned to him, pressing something into his hand, a small device from her. Armor, if something happens, press this, it will summon help. Kitra, promise me, she insisted. Whatever happens, whatever you learn, remember that what we have is real. Remember that she cut herself off, kissing him once more, quickly, fiercely, remember. Then she was moving, flowing through the shadows toward the approaching lights. Marcus gripped his blade and followed, his heart pounding with the certainty that their quiet life was about to shatter completely. The Imperial forces had found them at last. The Imperial soldiers emerged from the shadows like ghosts given form. They wore sleek armor similar to Kitra's but more elaborate, with flowing capes that seemed to absorb light. Marcus counted at least 20 before stopping, his heart sinking. Kitra stood in the farmyard's center, her blade held low but ready. The moonlight caught its edge, turning it to liquid silver. She had never looked more beautiful or more dangerous. Hold, she commanded in a voice Marcus had never heard her use, one that expected immediate obedience. To his amazement, the soldiers froze mid-step. A figure stepped forward from their ranks, removing an ornate helmet to reveal features similar to Kitra's, but younger, softer. The woman's silver eyes widened in shock. Sister, she breathed. You're alive. Sister, Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Kitra, was that even her real name? Straightened to her full height. Hello, Vesa. I see you received my distress beacon after all. It only took you 3 weeks. We thought you were dead. Vesa's composure cracked, revealing genuine anguish. The assassination attempt, your ship destroyed. Mother has been. Mother ordered it. Kitra said flatly. The silence that followed was deafening. Several soldiers shifted uncomfortably, and Marcus saw hands moving toward weapons. That's impossible, Vesa said. But doubt colored her tone. Is it? Tell me, sister, who else knew my flight path? Who insisted I travel without my full guard? Kitra's laugh was bitter. I've had time to think, lying here healing. Time to piece together the betrayal. Kitra, Marcus said softly, stepping from the shadows. Every weapon in the yard swung toward him, but Kitra moved faster, placing herself between him and the soldiers. "Stand down," she snarled. "Anyone who threatens him dies by my hand." "A human?" Vessa's voice pitched higher. "Sister, what have you done?" "I survived," Kitra said simply. "This man saved my life, healed my wounds, gave me shelter without asking for anything in return." "He knows who you are," Vessa demanded. "I know she's someone worth protecting," Marcus interjected, moving to stand beside Kitra despite the weapons aimed at him. "I don't care about the rest." Kitra turned to him then, and the pain in her eyes nearly broke him. "You should care. You deserve the truth." She took a deep breath. "I am Princess Katara Verthuk, first blade of the Zarati Empire, heir to the Crimson Throne." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. Princess, heir, empire. The woman he'd been falling in love with wasn't just alien nobility. She was royalty on a scale he couldn't fathom. "The Zarati Empire spans 300 systems," Vessa added, watching Marcus's face. "Our sister commands fleets. Billions bow to her name. And you're a farmer on a backwater world." "Enough," Katara snapped. "His worth isn't measured by titles or wealth. No, but yours is." Vessa countered. "The succession crisis worsens every day you're gone. Lord Theron grows bolder, claiming you're dead, pushing his claim. Mother tried to have me killed rather than let Theron challenge me directly." Katara interrupted. "She thinks I'm too war-hungry, too inflexible to rule. Better a controllable cousin than a daughter who asks uncomfortable questions about our expansion policies." Marcus's mind reeled, trying to reconcile the woman who'd learned to milk cows with this imperial princess discussing assassination and succession. "You could have told me," he said quietly. Katara faced him fully, ignoring the soldiers. When you were saving my life, when you were teaching me to make bread, when we kissed under the moons." Her voice broke slightly. "I wanted to be just Kitra with you, just a woman, not a title. And now I have to choose." She said, "Return and fight for a throne I'm not sure I want, or disgrace our entire line by abandoning your duty for an alien farmer." Vessa finished harshly. Kitra's blade hummed as she raised it slightly. "Careful, sister. I'm still deciding how many of you leave here alive." "You wouldn't," Vessa said, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "I've changed," Katara said simply. "This place, this man, they've shown me something different. Something better than endless conquest and court intrigue." "Pretty words," a new voice interrupted. A soldier had removed his helmet, revealing scarred features and cold eyes. "But we have orders. Princess, you return with us, willing or not." "Commander Jorek," Katara acknowledged, "still following orders blindly, I see." "The Empire needs stability," Jorek replied. "Your absence provides none." Marcus watched Katara transform before his eyes. The gentle woman who'd marveled at sunrises became the deadly warrior he'd glimpsed that first night. Her stance shifted, blade rising to a guard position. "The Empire needs change," she declared. "And if I return, things will change, starting with those who betrayed their oaths." "Sister, please," Vessa stepped forward. "There's another way. The council has agreed. If you return now, take your place. They'll overlook your absence. You can even keep him as a consort if you must. Many rulers have taken alien companions." The casual dismissal of their relationship as mere companionship ignited something in Marcus. "I'm not interested in being kept," he said firmly. "And Katara isn't a prize to be collected by your empire." Several soldiers hissed at his informal use of her name, but Katara smiled, a fierce, proud expression. "You see, he understands me better than any of you." "Then help us understand," Vessa pleaded. "Come home, take your throne, rule with the wisdom this experience has given you. But don't throw away everything you are for love," Katara finished. "Why not? Our people have thrown away entire worlds for less worthy causes." The word hung in the air between them. Love. She'd said it, made it real. "You love him?" Vessa asked, genuine shock replacing her earlier disdain. "I do," Katara said simply, her eyes finding Marcus. "I love his kindness, his strength, his ridiculous coffee maker, and the way he hums while tending the wheat. I love who I am when I'm with him. Marcus's heart soared even as the situation grew more desperate. "I love you too," he said. "Princess or not, empire or not, you're my Kitra, always." "How touching," Commander Jorik drawled, "but love doesn't change duty. You have 1 minute to say goodbye, Princess. Then we leave." "No," Katara said flatly, "no." Jorik's hand moved to his weapon. "That wasn't a request. And I'm not a soldier under your command," Katara reminded him. "I'm your future empress. Remember that before you threaten me again." The tension ratcheted higher. Marcus counted heartbeats, aware that violence balanced on a knife's edge. Then Vesa did something unexpected. She laughed. "Stars above, you really have changed," she said. The old Katara would have already painted the ground with blood. This one threatens and negotiates. "Is that weakness?" Katara asked. "No," Vesa admitted. "It might be wisdom." She looked between her sister and Marcus, seeming to truly see them for the first time. "There might be another way, if you're serious about change. If you truly believe you can be better for having known him. Speak." Katara commanded. "Return with us. Take the throne. Change the empire from within," Vesa said. "But keep him with you. Not as a consort, but as an equal. Show the empire that strength comes in many forms." The nobles would riot, Jorik protested. "An alien as royal companion. Let them," Katara said, her voice gaining strength. "I've spent my life fighting our enemies. Perhaps it's time I fought for something instead of against." She turned to Marcus. "But only if you're willing. I won't force you into a life you don't want." Marcus looked at her, warrior princess. Gentle student, the woman who'd brought light back into his world. The choice was simpler than he'd expected. "Wherever you go," he said. "I go. Farm or palace, wheat field or throne room. We face it together." Kitara's smile could have powered stars. She sheathed her blade and took his hand, facing her sister and the soldiers as a united front. "Then we have an accord," she announced. "I return to claim my throne. But things will change. Starting now." As the soldiers slowly lowered their weapons, Marcus squeezed Kitara's hand. He had no idea what lay ahead, but with her beside him, he was ready to find out. The farmer and the warrior princess, standing together against an empire. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but perhaps it was the one he was meant to live.